Tonight,
I wasn't feeling well, just run down and achy all over. But I always had this nagging pain in my back that radiated into my stomach.
an ABC 27 special presentation.
Brian actually ended up having stage 3 out of 4 disease or end-stage liver problems.
Clinical Trials, Research, and You, sponsored by Penn State Health.
Good evening, I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Clinical trials are all about making medical breakthroughs, finding new treatments and possible cures. Penn State Health is leading several clinical trials right here in central Pennsylvania. For example, there are clinical trials for heart and vascular patients, different research studies for neurology patients, and clinical trials for women's health. And that's just to name a few of the categories. So how can you help impact the future of medicine? How do you find out about the clinical trials offered at Penn State Health? And what are the benefits of participating? You'll find out tonight. And if you have questions at home, Christina Butler is here to tell you how to get them answered. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Deborah. Specialists from Penn State Health are right here in the ABC 27 call center tonight. They are taking all of your phone calls and answering all of your questions. Just call the number on the bottom of your screen. You can also email your questions to questions@abc27.com. Dr. Neil Thomas will answer your emails throughout tonight's show. All calls and all emails are confidential. And Deborah, I'll be back later in the show to share some of these questions and answers with you.
Thanks, Christina. Clinical trials don't always take place in a hospital setting. Brian Boyer found that out. He enrolled in the NASH-FIT trial after he received an unexpected diagnosis. 59-year-old Brian Boyer walks into the University Fitness Center.
Good morning.
About the same time every day. But it's not an ordinary workout.
I didn't exercise since school, but it seems like forever. With my job and stuff, I just never had time, never had the ambition to.
This one is more of a glide and more similar to what your natural gait is.
Brian found time to exercise when he received an unexpected diagnosis.
I wasn't feeling well, just run down and achy all over. But I always had this nagging pain in my back that radiated into my stomach. That's what made me go to the doctor.
A visit that led to some tests. Doctors diagnosed Brian with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is the most common disease of the liver in the United States and worldwide. And it's due to an excess accumulation of fat in the liver. And this extra fat in the liver leads to abnormalities in clotting, and patients develop issues with clots in their lungs, clots in their legs, and also clots in the veins going into the liver called the portal vein. Brian actually ended up having stage 3 out of 4 disease, which means he's one stage before cirrhosis or end-stage liver problems.
The news startled Brian, but he wasn't surprised. His sister had liver problems.
With the problem she was having, that she was going to need a liver transplant, and that was 11 years ago that she had that.
A liver transplant was successful for Brian's sister, but he wasn't ready to follow in her footsteps.
And I didn't want to go through that. Yeah, I seen how bad she was, the condition that she was in, and decided I better do something.
Dr. Stein had a suggestion. He's in charge of a clinical trial for patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Our overall goal is to improve clotting risk in fatty liver disease, but also to improve fitness and health-related quality of life through this exercise and dietary intervention. And as a researcher, I certainly felt that he was a very good candidate, for our study.
It'd be beneficial to be part of that. I remember him saying at the very worst, I could lose a few pounds because of the exercise and the diet.
So Brian enrolled in the program.
When you get here, we do the baseline visit, which is just the DEXA scan. We do the stress test. We give you your Fitbit and we randomize you. If you're in the exercise group, then you're over at the fitness center. You go there 5 days a week and you work with an exercise physiologist, and you also get nutritional counseling once a week as well.
A new chapter in Brian's life began.
He comes in and he starts by walking on the treadmill for 5 minutes just to warm up and get ready for exercise. Then he does 5 dynamic stretches, and then he does 30 minutes of an activity of his choice. Typically he chooses to be on the bike, the recumbent bike, so his feet are out in front of him, and the machine that he uses, he gets to use his arms too. So he gets kind of a full body workout. And then after he does his 30 minutes of exercise, he finishes up with 5 minutes again on the treadmill at a slower pace to bring his heart rate down so he can kind of go into recovery mode.
I lost about 12 pounds this is the 14th week now that I'm here, so it's helping.
He's doing amazing. I mean, even since day one, he's put all of his effort into this. He's coming 5 days a week. He's working hard.
In addition to exercise, Brian needed to change his eating habits.
As far as diet, I just ate whatever I wanted to. I mean, I ate on the run all the time.
My role in this study is going to be initially meeting with the clients when they first start and introduce them to how they're going to be tracking their food. And then from that point, we have weekly check-ins. They're usually about 10 minutes per week, discussing changes and goals that we can make to improve their diet.
Brian has improved his diet by making meals at home.
They should be tracking on their Fitbit every single day all of the foods that they're eating. So they have an app that they can put in the foods, and then that is basically computed, and we review it each week to be looking at what they're doing, what they're not doing, what specific items can be improved upon, and then make changes moving forward.
She goes over like calories that I'm eating and sodium, protein's a big thing. That's a big help.
Our hope for Brian is that, with the weight loss he's had with this trial, and provided he continues to, make the healthy choices that he's now learned through our intervention, that he will continue to lose weight, and he will reverse his liver fibrosis and hopefully prevent developing end-stage liver problems.
Lifestyle changes that are already making a difference in Brian's life.
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, for as much as it's helped me so far, I'm sure it's helping other people.
At first, Brian wasn't sure he would like participating in this clinical trial, but he really enjoyed it. He finished the trial about 2 weeks ago. He is still exercising, and he does look great. Now joining us is Dr. Jonathan Stein, the Director of Research in Penn State's Liver Center. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Deborah.
What is the goal of the NASHFIT trial? By the way, that's a catchy name.
Oh, thank you. The goal for the NASHFIT trial is to take the most common reason for chronic liver problems in the United States, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and to use exercise as medicine to improve this common condition.
Now, Brian did not know that he had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Is this usually the case? He was shocked.
Yeah, unfortunately, most patients who have this condition are completely unaware of their diagnosis. And furthermore, they're asymptomatic, so meaning they have no symptoms. And a lot of times patients find out when they undergo testing for another problem. So for example, Brian underwent an ultrasound of his stomach and liver looking for issues related to his chronic abdominal or back pain, and that's how we arrived at the incidental diagnosis of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
And are most of the cases incidentally found?
Yeah, most patients are unaware, and we find them really by accident.
Now, as we mentioned, Brian did end this trial a couple of weeks ago. You have the results. We want to hear.
Yeah, Brian's here, watching the show in the studio tonight. And before we came on air, we were really excited to share the results with him. Brian had a tremendous response to the clinical trial. We couldn't be more proud of him. You heard in the video beforehand, he lost 12 pounds overall. But perhaps more importantly, Brian significantly reduced the amount of fat around his abdominal organs called visceral fat. And this is the fat that leads to increased risk of heart disease and stroke. In addition, he normalized his liver tests, he normalized his blood sugars, he also normalized his cholesterol. Brian was able to reduce his liver fat by 25%.
Wow. And
to heal up the scar in his liver by 1 stage. So this means he reduced his overall chance of dying by 50%. And when you add that to the 30% gain in his fitness, his all-cause mortality in 10 years is reduced by another 50%.
Wow, that's amazing. So you can actually reduce or change your stage.
Yeah, for many patients, if they're able to get more active and to ultimately achieve a little bit of weight loss, usually 7 to 10% of their body weight, you can actually reverse and perhaps even make the scar go completely away.
I'm sure some people are watching this saying, hey, how can I get involved with this? What's the criteria?
Yeah, so for the NASH-FIT trial, you have to have a diagnosis of fatty liver disease and had a liver biopsy within 6 months before starting the study, and you have to be an adult who's between the ages of 18 and 69.
Okay, Dr. Stein, thank you so much for all of this information. We appreciate that. And if you would like more information about the NASH-FIT study, you can call this number, 1-866-995-0029. Why don't we check in now at the ABC 27 call center with Christina. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Deborah. The phones are ringing here. They're busy in here answering your questions. You can get your question answered by calling 717-346-3333. Here to answer our viewer questions tonight, Katie Lafredo, Clinical Research Coordinator. Thanks for being here. Let's get right to our first viewer question. They would like to know, I'm interested in participating in a clinical trial. How will I know if I am being given medication or a placebo?
Well, you won't know, and that's intentional. It's called blinding. Blinding prevents bias so that the group that is receiving placebo and the group that is receiving the active medication, they'll be treated equally.
Okay, that's probably a good thing to do, though. Now, will they ever find out?
Yes. Oftentimes it is possible for study participants to be told which group they were in during the trial, and that will happen at the very end of the trial.
Okay, thanks, Katie. We'll be back in just a minute with Katie. You can also email your questions in. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching Clinical Trials, Research and You on ABC 27, sponsored by Penn State Health.
Welcome back. Joining us is Terry Novchich, the Director of Clinical Trials, Penn State College of Medicine. So why don't you tell me, what is a clinical trial? We saw Brian's story, but explain it a little bit more.
Well, a clinical trial is really a scientific investigation to look at a medication or a treatment and its effectiveness on a particular disease. But at the same time, you don't actually have to have a disease. You could be a healthy volunteer in a trial, as well as the investigator could be looking at studying maybe a particular behavior or even just collecting some survey data.
Now, Penn State Health offers many clinical trials. How can you find one that actually works for you?
Well, you can go to studyfinder.psu.edu, and from that you can enter in some keywords to be able to search for a particular trial, as well as that healthy volunteer. If you want to consider that, you have the ability to complete a form there as well.
And when I was on Study Finder, I found all these different categories there as well, so many to choose from. So when will you hear back?
There is a contact listed for every particular trial that is listed there. If that person was not able to return the call, that message actually comes to my office as well, and then we forward that on to the appropriate individual.
And many may be wondering, what are the benefits? Are they safe? It's a clinical trial.
Yep. So it's really important to know that there is a really rigorous review process that happens before we start any clinical trial. So we have scientists, non-scientists, we have community members who volunteer their time. That constitutes one of our institutional review boards, and they look at the risks and benefits of every trial before we get ready to start.
Okay, Terry, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And once again, you can find out more about the clinical trials at Study Finder. Go to studyfinder.psu.edu or call 1-866-995-0029. And let's go back to the ABC 27 call center. Check in with Christina. Okay, looks like we will check in with Christina in just a little bit. We're going to go right now to a story that we worked on regarding a gentleman who did qualify for a clinical trial that's going on right now. It's a little bit more involved than what we saw Brian's was, but let's check out Charlie Shostall's journey. Charlie Showstall makes sure his 410 Sprint car is the fastest race car on the track.
I was racing at a speedway called State Line Speedway in Jamestown, New York. We won our heat, which was the first for my driver. He's a young and upcoming driver, and that's an accomplishment. We had the car working right for him, and he did a great job of driving it.
Charlie has been a part of this sport for more than 30 years.
It's very fun, very fast, furious racing. It's a very dangerous sport, but everybody that's into it really loves it.
4 years ago, Charlie had to slow down real fast.
I was having some burning in my chest, unlike indigestion or anything like that. And it actually felt like I had a ball of fire sitting like right up here on my chest.
He said, I think I should go to the hospital. And I'm like, okay. So I got out of bed and, we got dressed, and he was dressed already, but grabbed a couple things and we went over to the emergency room at Hershey.
And it was there where doctors told Charlie he was having a heart attack.
It's a very scary moment when they tell you have something like that going on. They drop the bomb on you, and you just try to comprehend what's going on.
And I thought, okay, I hope everything's okay. I'm not ready to go on with my life alone, so. But he did very well in the hospital. They were very amazed at how he came around.
Charlie spent less than a week in the hospital, but 6 months later, he was back again.
So I go back into the hospital. I had another area in my heart that had a blockage, and they ran me through the procedure again.
This would be the second of 3 heart attacks. On Charlie's last hospital stay, doctors asked him to take part in a clinical trial funded by the National Institutes of Health.
This new trial is called the TACT-2 trial, and that stands for Trial for the Assessment of Chelation Therapy. Number 2 stands because it's a follow-up trial of the original trial. And it specifically targets diabetics who are 50 years or older and have had a heart attack.
I reviewed it, and I did a little bit of internet research and things like that, and I found that it sounded something that really intrigued me.
I thought it was a great idea if it was going to help him and possibly, help some people in the future. I was all for it.
The current main hypothesis, or the idea how this works, is that lead contributes to vascular inflammation. Diabetics already have high degrees of vascular inflammation by virtue of their illness. And so if you're diabetic and you have high lead levels, maybe that's extra bad.
Chelation therapy is used to remove lead that is floating around in the bloodstream.
Chelators are organic molecules that kind of suck up metal that's floating around in the bloodstream.
Chelation therapy is given through infusions.
The hypothesis is that by administering these infusions and removing the toxic metals, inflammation will be reduced, and therefore the likelihood of repeat heart events will be reduced.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, hi, Katie. Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Good.
Charlie and 3 other men who met the criteria signed up for the clinical trial.
The folks at Penn State gave me a call, and they knew my medical history, and they figured I was eligible for this trial, and they asked me if I wanted to participate, and they told me what it would involve and everything, and it sounded fine to me.
Once a week for 40 weeks, these men spent some time on the clinical trials floor.
We'll go ahead and get started. I'll get your blood pressure a while.
That sounds like a plan.
We tell folks to expect to be here about 4 hours till we get them here, assess their weight and their vital signs, and have them be evaluated by Dr. Leuenberger. We must administer the infusion over a 3-hour time period. It can't be infused any faster than that. And then after the infusion is completed, they're free to go.
During the course of this, you have a cardiologist that sees you every time you come here. So it's a rarity that someone would have the benefit of having a cardiologist visit with them 40 times in a year.
I had a lot of good people. Nurses were great. Even that big tall doctor, he's a pretty good fella too.
I felt a lot better through the course of this. I don't think it's psychological because I've been able to lose some weight during the course of this. Actually got my sugar a little better controlled. I feel better. I feel better after going through this than I have in a long time in my life.
I'm hoping that my participation in this, along with the other patients, will bring about some useful information and possibly other treatments.
You just feel good because you're doing something that could help thousands of people in the future if this proves to be true, and it has benefit to a lot of people. It could save a lot of people maybe from having a heart attack or problems like I've been going through.
And that's the goal of clinical trials. It will take several years before the results of this trial are published. Let's go back to the ABC 27 call center and check in with Christina.
Hi again, Deborah. It remains busy in here, and you do still have a couple of minutes to get your questions in. Just call the call center here at 717-346-3333. The phone lines are open until 8. And remember, if the phone lines are busy, you can send us an email at questions@abc27.com. We're joined again now by Katie. Thanks for staying with us. And we have another viewer question for you. They say, I'm 30 years old. I don't have any health problems. Can I still participate in a clinical trial?
Absolutely, yes. Many clinical trials depend heavily on healthy volunteers, and healthy volunteers are used as a comparator to similar groups of people with disease conditions, and then the scientists can evaluate the likenesses, the similarities, and the differences between the two groups. A very excellent way of finding out about opportunities for healthy volunteers is through the Study Finder website.
Okay.
So please look for opportunities there.
Okay. All right. Thanks for explaining that. For that viewer question, here's our next one. I've been in the hospital numerous times for heart problems. I am interested in a clinical trial. Should I talk to my cardiologist before signing up?
Yes, discussing your interest in a particular clinical trial with your cardiologist is a very good idea. The other thing is that if you don't know of a particular trial that you're interested in and you just know that you're interested in clinical trials in general, speaking to your cardiologist is a very good idea because he may be very instrumental in matching you with just the right trial.
Okay.
And I wanted to share that it's good for potential trial participants to understand that in the Heart and Vascular Institute in particular, which I am a part, our principal investigators and research coordinators always do take the time to reach out to the primary cardiologists of our participants that seem to be eligible for our studies in order to make sure that there's a seamless collaboration.
There is. Okay, thanks for that. Thank you also to our specialists for joining us tonight. Deborah, we will send it back to you.
Thanks, Christina. Joining us right now is Dr. Urs Leuenberger. You are in charge of the TAC2 trial. What do you hope to accomplish with this trial?
Thank you for having me here. With this trial, we try to confirm that chelation therapy actually may be something very helpful in patients who have heart disease and happen to be diabetic. So chelation therapy has been around for a while. It's never been FDA approved. And a lot of people, a lot of experts doubted that it was helpful. And so about 10 years ago, a major trial was done. And surprisingly, a major benefit was found, but it was limited to patients who had diabetes. And so the second trial, this TAC2 trial, the purpose is really to solidify that answer, that this is good treatment, it had a major benefit, and secondly, to find out why it works.
Now, there is a significant amount of time put into this trial as far as the participant is concerned. It's not this way for all the clinical trials.
No, this is by far the most complicated and complex trial that I've been involved with. You've heard these generous patients talk about it. Coming for 40 infusions on a weekly basis takes a lot of time. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. But there are lots of other trials that require a lot less time. So we have trials where patients come once for a study or maybe two times in a row. Some trials are conducted in the clinical offices where they see their physician and do maybe a questionnaire or take a special treatment. So there are many clinical trials that are a lot simpler than this one we're talking about here now.
Okay, now you are Associate Program Director of Penn State's Clinical and Translational Science Institute, also known as CTSI. Tell me about that.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is.
So the CTSI is really a virtual institute across Penn State that tries to get people from many, many different disciplines, including disciplines outside of medicine. We have strong connections up at University Park with engineering, with informaticists, with social scientists. And the central mission of this institute is really to enable researchers to come up with very novel solutions to challenging health problems. It's been established that the best way to do that is to talk to people who you usually don't talk to. And we happen to be fortunate to have been supported by NIH. As this institute, we're one of about 60 institutes across the nation with that function. And so a side effect of this is also that we have established new connections to other universities.
Okay, great. Lots of very good information, Dr. Leuenberger. Thank you so much for being with us. And we also want to thank you, our viewers, for sharing your stories and sending in your questions. If you would like more information about any of the clinical trials offered at Penn State Health, go to studyfinder.psu.edu or call this number, 1-866-995-0029. Once again, that number is 1-866-995-0029. We want to thank you for watching tonight, and we wish you good health.